Hold on.
All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Happy Thursday afternoon. Someone recently said, or Thursday or Friday Eve, which sounds weird because I think that sounds like Friday evening, which it is not. So that's not the right thing to say. My name is Megan Welter, and I'm the Associate Commissioner of Public Education at the Department of Education. And just as a quick sort of background for this conversation today, we got some feedback from some superintendents recently with the commissioner, and you know, this work of the transition is complex, and oftentimes messaging can come across differently, or people can walk away from the same meeting, as often happens with humans, with two different understandings. And so we want to have every opportunity we can to share information, to answer questions, and clarify what is happening, and take questions as best we can. So some of the information that we're going to go over this afternoon is information that you've probably heard before. In fact, some of the slides will be familiar if you've been in any of the Sandy and Megan shows or any of the other Sandy Flack shows that are out and about in the world these days. So we're going to go ahead and get started. We're going to walk through some information. So I'm going to kind of turn it over to Sandy, but we'll each be jumping in and taking turns. And folks from the department and from CDS, and if you could please introduce yourself when it's your turn to jump in and speak. So thank you very much.
Great. Thank you, Megan. I am Sandy Flack. I'm the Deputy Director for the Office of Special Services and Inclusive Education. And I am helping support the transition of early childhood special education from CDS, as we know it, to the public schools. And this leads nicely into our first slide, which is really just to set the foundation of what early childhood special education is. And I see that there's a hand raised, but I can't see anything else. Is there a question? No. Okay. Thank you. I just wanted to set the foundation before we get started. For some of you may already know this, and some of you may not, that early childhood special education is part of the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, or IDEA, and it is specific to what is called Section 619. So there is a section of that law that pertains just to preschoolers with disabilities. And it is really designed to support children in their preschool years, that children with disabilities, that they can access a variety of settings and services, pre-kindergarten classrooms. It could be settings in the home or in community settings like Head Start or preschool. The other information that you often hear about is called early intervention. And I just want to clarify that that is for children birth to age 3. And sometimes we also call that Part C. I'm going to turn this back over to Megan.
We're going to go through this slide really fast. I think everybody understands that this law passed, and if you are looking for where the text can be found, it passed in the 131st session of the legislature in Public Law 643 Part W. That was the supplemental budget. If you're looking for it on the legislative website, you just need to find the 131st and plug in 2214, and you can get that. If you want the actual text of Part W, you could also reach out to us and we can send you the part that has been pulled out from Part W of that very long appropriations bill.
Okay, back over to me. So we wanted to just give you a brief summary of some of the elements of the law. The big part of this law was shifting the responsibility of child find and FAPE, which is free appropriate public education, from CDS as we know it to the public schools. So that's the big chunk of that law. There's other language in there about how those services may be delivered. And another key piece to the law is that school districts that are interested in taking on this responsibility have to complete a readiness plan as well as part of that. The other big piece to this law is what becomes of CDS through this transition. So as we know, as we are transitioning students from CDS to the public school, we are still responsible for maintaining that agency. And so for over the next 4 years, as we are shifting the children, CDS is reinventing itself as a support and service hub. So that system or that organization has started this in cohort 1, and we've really defined it in cohort 2, has started to provide services for school districts as they need it. Right now, we have around 70% of our school districts in cohort 1 and 2 accessing services through the CDS sites. So the other piece of that is that we were responsible for starting parent advisory committees for each of our CDS sites, and those are up and running successfully. And then we are also responsible for any due process or any compensatory services that may have incurred while a child is being underserved through child development services. And I will turn it over to Barb McGowan.
Okay. Good. Hi, everyone. I'm Barbara McGowan. I'm the Director of Financial Management for the Office of Special Services and Inclusive Education team. This is a slide that's new to me, but I'll cover it, Sandy. It's fine. Essentially, okay. Essentially, funding may not be appropriated or allocated through general purpose aid. So funding for the ECSE early childhood pre-K programs is coming outside of your EPS funding allocation. It is separate. It's based on a lot of the same data that is used within your EPS calculation, but it is separate and it is funded at 100% state funding.
Barb, do you want me to jump in? I'm pretty familiar with this slide.
Yeah, go.
Okay.
I'm good for the next one. This one was like, oh.
This was Paula's slide and she couldn't be here tonight.
Yep. So the other elements of the law, this is again ripped right from the headlines or Part W of the law that we're talking about, is that the Department of Education was directed to implement a funding formula. And Barb's going to walk you through the funding formula that has been implemented. The law also calls for a high cost in and high cost out of district costs to be modeled after what is in statute for our K-12 system. And the law also included grant funding as well as a $4 million revolving renovation fund. Unfortunately, those last two bullets were really in place for the first two cohorts, but are not continuing to be in place. So sorry that we've included those there, but those are the elements of the law for the funding. So Barb, you want to hit the next slide?
Yeah, I'm happy to jump in now, Megan. A little more of my comfort zone here. This also is a Paula slide. If you have thought about joining a cohort or you have joined a cohort, you've reached out to Paula's team to get an estimation of what your allocation would look like. Again, using the same unique EPS rate for your school district that is also used within the early childhood special education funding formula, plus additional weights for special education. And what Paula can do, Paula and her team, is if you reach out to her, she will get your estimated child counts from Jen Hopkins, and she will put together a spreadsheet for you where you can plug and play your numbers and see what your allocations would look like as your student counts increase or decrease, which is extremely helpful when you're trying to establish a budget. Paula always puts in her slides that this is not a reimbursement model. The R word is something we do not use around school finance. We only use that in federal funds. So when we get to the next slide or two, I'm happy to deploy the reimbursement word. But here we say, no, this is not a reimbursement model. July 1st is your first allocation count data that goes into that particular funding formula. Paula will establish an allocation. Allocations are awarded prior to the quarter, so it's front loaded for you. And then in the second quarter is based on true counts, so it is the only quarter where your allocation could go down as well as up, because we adjust for if we overestimate your counts, we adjust down to the true count. The third and fourth quarters, it would only go up, it would not go down. Allocations can always be reviewed and adjusted as we go along, and we'll talk about how that's done on the back side. So we're talking about allocations that are front loaded for your district based on child counts. And then if you want to advance, Sandy. The early childhood special education, a couple things that you would need to know. It's all of your expenses should be posted to Fund 2213. That is very specific to your early childhood special education funds. And you should also always use revenue code 3128. So preparing for pre-K. So I wanted to back up a little bit, and if you're considering cohort 3 or 4, some of the things that you should do right away. You should reach out to school finance, and you should get that estimated funding table from them. It will have your specific EPS rate on it, and it will have an estimated child count for you, so that you can start to think in terms of what would my initial allocation look like. You can review child counts with Sandy or Jen Hopkins. They can tell you what you have for anticipated enrollment. Then you want to start to build a budget. And as I go out to districts and I visit folks, I'm always saying, if it were me, I would establish a budget for my early childhood special education program, and then I would submit it into DOE for review and comment, just so we don't run into any unhappy surprises as we go along. Once you're in cohort, you'll want to schedule a meeting for an on-site needs assessment. Right now, Lori Whittemore is the person that comes out and she visits you and she looks at your space needs and curriculum and furniture, and you want to start to identify any transportation needs that you are unable to overcome, or deploy other resources for, any capital improvements that need to be done. So you want to start to identify all of these things. What Lori does when she comes out is she will set up a spreadsheet of approved expenditures, one-time costs, classroom setups, and whatnot. And then she brings that back to the full team. We look at that. When we fund those costs, we're funding them outside of your allocation funding. So there is a separate pot of money that we use to fund these types of activities. However, those costs should still be applied to 2213, and the revenue you receive back from me should also be applied to revenue code 3128. We want to keep all of those pre-K expenditures together, whether it's through allocation funds or other set-aside funds that get reimbursed through the Office of Special Services. So next slide.
Barb, while you're changing slides, I just put into the notes Paula's team, and when I say Paula's team, we're talking Paula and one other person, have been really great about generating those tables for folks. However, for the next few weeks in particular, their priority is really getting ED 279s out. So know that at least in the next few weeks, that's their primary focus. So they may not be quite as responsive as they usually are, but please do still reach out. And I just wanted to let you know they are working. They're working really hard, but that's got to be their priority right now.
We have built in some supports. Sarah McLaughlin is working with them to learn that particular part of the system, the pre-K system. She's not up to speed yet, but she's working on it. And Paula and Ida are working hard to get her trained so that we don't have lapses in those response times. Paula and her team are outstanding when it comes to making sure they get back in a timely way. So they want to make sure they can continue that as we go into cohort 3 and 4. There are a few things that a district is responsible for, and that is what I'm calling the back end of this process. So your allocations are front loaded, but we also need to circle back around at the end of each quarter and do a review of how the funding is holding up. So all districts in cohort are responsible for providing a detailed trial balance for Fund 2213 30 days after the end of each quarter. They're also responsible for uploading their financial data to the MEPS or MEDM system every quarter. And again, those are due 30 days after the end of each quarter. That would be October 30, January 30, April 30, July 30 for quarters 1, 2, 3, and 4. Right now, you would send the detailed trial balance to Sarah McLaughlin and myself. We have built in the Grants for Maine portal a place for these things to be uploaded. And I will be doing a training on that very, very soon. So that we will be transitioning from email to the Grants for Maine system. Within that system, you can see everything that your district has uploaded and all of the high cost out of district, high cost in district narrative explaining why costs may be falling outside of the norm. And that's it. That's your responsibility, other than if you have a cost that is uncommon or unknown to the team, we may ask you for some backup documentation, and that backup documentation will be uploaded into Grants for Maine as well to support those additional costs that we may be seeing. Now, when you send that information in, it's our responsibility at DOE to do a thorough review of that trial balance to ensure that you have used your funds in a necessary and reasonable manner. We're reviewing all high cost in-district and out-of-district costs, but primarily we're looking at funding adequacy. So what happens if the funding is not adequate? We ask why. So there's a few different reasons why funding could be insufficient. It could be due to a one-time cost, a setup cost, a piece of equipment that you've had to purchase for a child. These are not ongoing expenses. When that happens, we could do a one-time cash push through your allocation. It would not increase your allocation, but you would get more money in that quarter's allocation to help you cover those one-time costs. If you have, I always use medically fragile child in district, you have high cost full-time nursing, that is going to probably push you above your allocation, and allocation will be insufficient. Those are month to month costs, and in that case, we would do an increase to your allocation. Funding outside of the allocation is also something that we do, and those are basically one-time setup costs. We're trying very hard to keep that outside of the funding formula because they're one-time costs, and we don't want that to artificially inflate somebody's allocation. Next slide. I think I'm turning it over.
Yeah, you turn it back to me. So thank you, Barb. But as you can see, there is a lot of information to support school districts with gaining an understanding of what the responsibility is to take on early childhood special education. So part of all of this initial work, once a school district signs on, part of it is a team here at DOE and CDS that will pull together information for you. And that could include understanding where your current students are, how many students you have, learning about private providers in your community, learning about the funding, as Barb just explained, We also provide professional development ongoing throughout that onboarding time and then through the first year. Part of the initial work is on you, the SAU, to assemble your local team. That would include the superintendent, the special education director. We ask you to identify a transition lead, somebody that we can contact, your business manager, but then it even goes beyond that. You want to engage your pre-K staff, your elementary principals, your facilities, your transportation. This is a whole team that helps support this transition. So as I said in the beginning, part of this initial work that is required is that readiness tool. So we have that we send out to SAUs when they are thinking of joining cohort 3 or cohort 4, and really helping you look at your space and your capacity needs, what your staffing needs might be based on the number of children coming in. As Barb said, part of that is a budget development, looking at potential child find and numbers that might increase throughout the year, looking at your community partners. We have some fabulous tools here that we use to help support gathering this data for school districts. We also have our website, which is included on this slide deck, which we will send out after this presentation. The website has all of our recordings and slide decks from previous presentations. And then we also have a whole team of early childhood special education coordinators that will work with you individually, you and your team, to help support you to prepare for this transition. And next, I'm going to turn it over to Susie Perry.
Thanks, Sandy. Hi, everybody. My name is Susie Perry. I was a state 619 coordinator for about 7 years, and I'm now consulting with Maine to support the transition to FAPE in public schools. I hail from Arizona. So because each community in the state is different, the way they provide special education for preschoolers will also vary. As schools look to serve children with disabilities, the Department of Education and the CDS teams support the exploration of each SAU's current capacities, not only in staffing, but also in the district's physical space needs, to extend their capacity through public and private partnerships. Many children are already in preschool programs such as Head Start, public pre-K, family childcare programs, community preschools, special education classrooms, Title I and migrant programs, and we call this the mixed delivery system. So partnering with programs such as these is one way in which an SAU might extend its reach. Next slide. So school districts that plan to expand programming within their district will go through a process of planning, purchasing, installing, and ultimately using the spaces they create to serve children with and without disabilities. The department has implemented supportive strategies and helped to identify resources to support these plans. This process can be exciting, challenging, and messy at times, but ultimately offering preschool programming has been very satisfying for the sites that have decided to do so. Next slide. So school districts that plan to expand programming within their district will go through a process. Oops. Oh, shoot. I lost my place. Hold on just one sec. A common saying is not to put all of your eggs in one basket. So while districts might opt to operate their own programs, there are options. We described the many and varied programs that are in the communities across the state that can support the early care and education of young learners. To expand the reach and meet the needs of children and families in the community, another way of offering early learning programs is by partnering with programs that already exist. So the department will support you to discover further who's in my neighborhood, who's already offering these programs. They'll support you to form those relationships and partner, to coordinate and make more formal those relationships and partnerships, and to collaborate ultimately to meet the needs of children and families in the community. So we have resources and supports and materials to help make that a reality.
Thank you,
Next slide.
Susie. And I will turn it over to Erin Fraser.
Hello, everyone. I'm Erin Fraser. I'm the Director of the Office of Special Services and Inclusive Education. And we're going to talk a little bit about district boundaries. So SAUs are responsible for early childhood special education for children who reside within their SAU boundary, either attending your SAU pre-K program or attending a collaborative program in the SAU community, that mixed delivery system. SAUs are not responsible for ECSE when children attend a program out of state, or they attend a program out of your SAU boundary and there is programming available in the SAU. So the goal here is really not to kind of look in your catchment area to see how you can expand offerings of preschool education in your catchment area. For SAUs that do not have programming or space within their pre-K programs, nor any collaborative programs with the SAU community, the resident SAU has a lot of options. Here are some of them, and we can help you think of others because we have been thinking about this with folks for a long time. You can contract with CDS Service and Support Hub. Many SAUs are doing that to provide services that aren't available in their area. You can do a superintendent's agreement with the SAU where a student is in the program. You can develop partnerships with childcare's preschool program where the child attends, provide telehealth in childcare and preschool programs where the child attends. That's if they attended in a place where but was outside your catchment area and you did not have programming available in your area. You could offer that child to participate. Drop-in services already provided to the SAU. That's an option that you can use for your families. And if the IEP agrees, the child can access services at the service provider location. Or another solution specific to your area. We're finding that everyone has a different configuration. And so we have a whole team of people that can help you problem solve if you are trying to grapple with that idea of preschool programming in your catchment area. And I'm going to pass it to Dan.
Hi, everyone. My name is Dan Hemdahl. I'm the State Director for CDS. And during this transition, CDS has really taken on two major responsibilities, which is what they have done historically, which is the provision of FAPE for 3 to 5-year-olds, but also supporting SAUs in a support and service hub role. So through Cohort 1 and now in Cohort 2, CDS still carries non-cohort children's FAPE responsibility. And we're beginning to support Cohort 1 and Cohort 2 schools in their provision of FAPE through a support and service hub model. So what we're doing is, as we are talking about Cohort 3 and Cohort 4 and which SAUs are interested, we are looking at what that impact is going to look like in each regional site and what we can do with our existing capacity to help support in a support and service hub role as that shift happens. Next slide. So what we have done as a service and support hub is, again, we've continued to provide support and service to Cohort 1 and Cohort 2. So we've met with each school in Cohort, and we've developed an MOU which outlines what the regional site is able to do, and we have monthly meetings to check in to see, as things change, how CDS can better support an SAU's needs. And each MOU is specific to the district that is in Cohort. So some districts have capacity to take on a lot of this FAPE responsibility. Others need some support from CDS to help move them forward through this transition. This isn't all, but some of the supports that we have been providing is preschool programming, related services, itinerant 282B services, case management, and professional development. I believe I'm sending it back to, I don't know who I'm sending it to be
You're
honest.
passing it back to me.
That's what
I've
I
got
thought.
it.
All right.
So this slide just shows some of the ways that we are providing professional development for our school districts, our SAUs that are in cohort. And really, we have expanded this greatly since cohort 1. Part of the way we are doing it is we are working to provide some information through our learning management system here at the Department of Education. We've also created some one-page information sheets that we are getting ready to roll out shortly. We have, as I shared before, we have our website, which has all of our recordings and slide decks. As Barb mentioned, they are preparing grants for me to support the fiscal part of this, and there will be training on that. And then, as you can see, we have this listed as the transition runway, but it's really a list of professional development and technical assistance that we provide SAUs to prepare them for that transition and the official transfer of FAPE on the first day of school for each SAU. Also want to mention that there is federal data reporting requirements for this age group, and that is part of the data collection that we work with school districts on as well. So I'm sure many of you have seen these slides before, but I'm including them in the slide deck just so you'll have them for reference. These are the school districts that were in cohort 1. We had 17 school districts. In cohort 2, some things changed a little bit. And as you can see, there's a little circle in the corner of some of the school districts with a 4 in the circle. One of the requests that we had from some school districts was to see if they could start the transition and take on responsibility for 4-year-olds first, and then take on the responsibility for 3-year-olds the following year. And so we have allowed that. And so this year we have 7 school districts that are engaging in the transition of 4-year-olds only first. And so we anticipate that we know we have already over 70 school districts that have expressed an interest in joining cohort 3. And what we have also learned is that a majority of those school districts are interested in starting with 4-year-olds only. The comments that we hear is that school districts have public pre-K and that they have an understanding of serving 4-year-olds. Many of these districts already collaborate with CDS to provide services for students. And so we will also offer that this year. And then we have other school districts that are like, let's just do it. And we're going to take on 3-year-olds, 3, 4, and 5-year-olds. So once we know who is in cohort 3 this year, we will also know who is in cohort 4. But the difference is if you join cohort 4, which is fine, you do not get the option of splitting that up, and you will have to take on the responsibility of 3 through 5 for cohort 4. So what's next? And we just love this little kid. We have his picture in many of our slide decks. But right now we have provided outreach, and we have connected with many of the school districts throughout the state. I think we only have maybe a handful left that we have not met with. And we are here and willing to answer any of your questions that you might have. If you want a meeting with us to learn more about what this transition is like, you would please reach out. We have, I am sure we have questions in the chat that I just haven't seen yet. But on this slide deck, we also have all of our contact information, and we would be happy to meet with you. I'm going to stop sharing
I think we've answered all the questions in the chat.
Really? That's
Yeah,
awesome.
we've been answering them along the way. If there are specific questions that you have, again, this is a broad overview, but you may have a SAU specific question. We'd be happy to take it here, or you can connect with us offline if you'd like to.
I see a question, is there a requirement to use class for teacher evaluation?
No. If I'm assuming that, I'll be honest, I don't even know what class is, but I'm assuming it's an early childhood teacher evaluation. Okay. So no, you would follow your, if it's your public pre-K teacher, I'm not sure who asked that question, but you would use your district approved.
It was me that asked that question.
Oh.
The reason that I asked it, it's because it's in the evaluation or the rubric that we're supposed to fill out. So that was a question that we had when we were filling out the
I'm
rubric.
looking at Leanne. She probably has an answer for you.
I can clarify.
Okay.
So the class instrument is an observational tool. It's not used as an evaluation. It's used to give feedback to help educators think about their practice. We use it as part of our technical assistance in public pre-K in order to help support our pre-K teachers in the state. And it also helps inform us to think about where are some of the technical assistance and professional learning needs that we could do a better job of helping to support. So I think you've probably seen it in the pre-K self-assessment because it is part of that tool in terms of reflection. That might be something that you know, if you have a visit from our team, that's something that the teacher would be able to take time to reflect on.
I see another question in the chat. Sorry, do we feel like the question about class has been addressed? Any follow-up questions on that?
Thank you.
Great. Diane asked about they previously asked about questions about costs that might be incurred from rental space and utility costs, and wondering about how that would work.
I'm assuming you're directing that to me.
Yes, I am.
So,
I should have said your name.
I would like to table that and get back because there's been some internal discussion about that, and I'd like to catch up on the internal team's thoughts before we go ahead and say anything to the field, if that's okay.
That's fair. Jess Yates has asked if we're electing to provide universal pre-K, thus ensuring our FAPE offer is in a public pre-K program, are we still responsible for all child-find activities for parentally placed 3- and 4-year-olds in private schools? Do those students end up with ISPs for which we're also responsible? Sandy, or Aaron, are you able to address that?
Sure. Sandy, do you want me to take this one?
Sure.
Or do you want to do it?
Well, why don't I'll do child fine. So child fine, yes, you're still responsible for child fine for any student in your school district area. And then if I think I saw this email come across today, Jess, and I just didn't have time to answer it before this meeting. I'll start the answer, Aaron, and you can help me if I need it. So I know that you're planning on offering universal pre-K for students with IEPs. And so if you can provide that offer of FAPE within your program, that can be your offer of FAPE. Did I get that right,
Yes.
Aaron? Okay.
Yes, the ISP is really something that we're still considering. There's a parental placement is a little bit different in the 3 to 5 range because per IDEA, you're really looking at where a child is in their programming as you meet with their family and to see how that's working for them. But I don't want to, there will be, if you have the space in your preschool that you can offer all children a preschool experience, then that could be your FAPE offer. And so I didn't answer the ISP part. We are still navigating that if you are, but likely there will be an ISP involved in that.
And just to clarify, Sandy, you said child find activities for all children in our district, but in this case, is it all children who attend schools in our district or all children
Yes.
who reside in our district?
Oh,
Reside.
reside.
Okay,
Thank
so
you.
it's different than public school. Okay, so thank you so much for that clarification.
Yes, thank you for clarifying that, Jess.
Wait, but I just want to be clear, Jess, did you just say different than public school? Because it would be the same. It's
Right, in public school, we're responsible for child find for children who attend schools in our district, regardless of their home origin, but this is a kind of a switch, if that makes sense.
Yes,
It is.
got
It
it.
is.
Question about transportation. Who wants that one? Sandy Flack, you up for it? I think you are.
Well, that is, Danielle, that is a huge topic. So do you have a specific area that you have a question about?
No, I'm just wondering, is it like our responsibility to provide transportation for families, I guess, is the overarching question I have.
Yeah, so this is one of those, it's specific to each SAU. Do you offer transportation for pre-K? Then yes, you would have to offer that. And it would be the same for students with IEPs. If they have specialized transportation on their IEP, you are required to do that as well. I think the nuance comes is if you are using your mixed delivery system, so programs in your community as the place where a child receives their special education, do you have to transport to those? Typically, parents transport to those. But we do have some school districts that if that is the only place that they can get those services, that will transport if they can't offer it in their school district.
Okay, but and I knew that I knew that answer. Thank you. I appreciate. I just that was just something that was specifically asked from my transportation director today. And one more question: is that funded? Is that also part of that funding formula that we could use? That's reimbursed by the state, or not reimbursed, but given by the state?
Yes, yes, you can attribute some of your allocation to the transportation.
Okay, thank you.
I can answer the certification question. Right now, we are encouraging our 282s to apply for conditional 282B status. But as many of you know, Chapter 115 is open right now, and we have, no, it's not open.
It's not, I just want to clarify, it's the rule, the comment period is closed and the state board is reviewing the comments, and then it will go, because it is major substantive rulemaking, it will enjoy its time with the public hearing and making its way through the legislative process.
So in that after the comment period, we have proposed a 282 pre-K to 12 certification with a pathway to get to that certification for all people who hold a 282. Additionally, there will be a 283 certification, which will be a birth to 5 certification that specializes in early intervention and early childhood special education. So we encourage you to provide feedback when it's time to review that in the legislature.
Thanks, Erin. Sorry, I didn't mean to shake you off.
No, I want to get the words right because I knew that there was public comment, and I know that we've proposed changes, and the changes that we proposed would take care of the 282 because the certification would expand to pre-K to 12.
Right. And just to give a shout out to this team, Erin and the team have done a lot of work with all of you who have advocated to say that the 282B was really restrictive and really hard. And so Erin did a great job of sort of bringing that to the state board and was very persuasive. So yay. The state board was moved in that direction. They haven't been persuaded in all the other areas that we advocated for them. So yay for that one. Next one is any clarity that could be provided around the FAPE requirements, 9 hours versus 10 hours, full day, et cetera, for 4-year-olds. Thank you for asking that, Diane. That is one of the pieces that I want to be really clear. We know we need to give really clear guidance about this. And right now we are planning to hopefully issue that guidance in the first week of December with some greater clarity about exactly sort of what it is. As you can imagine, there are a lot of nuances when we're thinking about FAPE, you know, depending on what is considered universal pre-K, depending on, you know, what exists in the SAU. So we want to make sure that we're sort of pressure testing all of the answers that we are giving so that it will work in a variety of situations. So thank you for your patience on that. We know it is a pressing need and an answer that you all need as soon as possible, and we are really working on it. Deb asked about, can you request an estimated funding table and then decide on cohort 3 or 4? Yes, you can. Wouldn't it be funny if we were like, no, we already gave you the table, you're in. But yeah, no, I think that that does make a lot of sense. And as I said before, and also as Barb had mentioned, that, you know, the finance team is a small but mighty team, and they're working really hard to do all the things and to turn information around and be as responsive as possible. So, you know, simply reach out to them and they will work to turn it around. But please know that there is that small thing about the ED 279s and needing to get those out. So the data entry period ended on Friday, and so they are crunching numbers. All right. Other questions? Who do we contact to get started in this program? 1, 2, 3, not it. No, I'm just kidding. Holly, will you put your contact information in the chat?
I'll also be sending an email to everybody on this screen after, so you'll have my contact information there as well.
There is a,
yeah, good.
Oh, I was just going to say there is a question about a follow-up question about the certification, Aaron and Megan.
Aaron, you want me to cover that, or you want to cover it?
Yeah, you can do that. Plan B.
So it does depend on when the certification public hearing is made, as you know, and you may not know. I didn't know when I was in a district, but major substantive rulemaking does require a public hearing and to move through the legislative process, which means moving through the House and the Senate and then getting final sign off from the governor. So depending on if it goes into effect with an emergency preamble on it, it would take effect the moment that the governor signs. If, however, it does not, and it does not pass with, and when I say the emergency preamble, it requires a 2/3 majority in both houses to get signed off on. If it does not have that emergency preamble, then it would go into effect 90 days after the legislative session ends. And so this is the short session. See finger quotes because they say it'll end at the end of April, but sometimes they go a little later. So if it goes like May 1st, it would go 90 days after that. So it's not terrific timing, but it should be lined up to start before hiring season next year, before July 1. Whereas if it were the long session, that would be a little more problematic because this year's enactment date wasn't until September 24th.
Just remember that your 282 is automatically qualified for a conditional 282B in the interim, and that we are reimbursing the SAUs for the certification. However, I think if this all goes smoothly, and again, we've really worked hard to kind of get all types of constituents in agreement that this is the best thing to do for our state because of the expansion of preschool. So hopefully, you know, with if it passes, and this won't be problematic.
Any other questions? Oh, thank you, Christine. All right, you're welcome to contact any of us. Holly will follow up with an email that'll also have the recording of this so that you can, in all your spare time, listen to this all over again, because why not? And there will also be a few links to contact information for folks. But we really appreciate this work. We do believe that this is some of the most important work that's happening in the state in terms of what will improve the education for young people in our state. And we really want to do this in partnership with you. And we know that you are juggling more things than you can count, and often more than anyone can manage. But we stand hopefully with you and offer ourselves to support this work and do that alongside with you as well. So we appreciate your time. We know it's late. We hope that you have some time next week with friends and families and loved ones to enjoy the holiday. Thank you very much for your time.